welcome to the How to Play for Disassembly Required, my remix. Now before we begin, this is detuned down half a step. You absolutely can play it in regular tuning. I usually do it just to make it so that the solo is a little bit easier to play and sounds a little bit better. But that's how the tabs are going to be set up, as though you were detuned down half a step. For the intro, we go a nice clean setting, and it's a pretty simple little riff here. We're just going to go on your first string, 7th fret, second string, 8th fret, second string again, 7th fret, and then your 4th string, your 9th fret here. So that little riff sounds like this. We're going to repeat that just a couple times. Now, it does sound better if you finger pick this one. It has just a little bit of a softer tone to it. Now, when you complete that sort of measure of going down like this, we're then going to hit these two notes again, the 7th fret on the first string, 8th fret on the second string, and then we're going to go back to your first string and go 9, 10, this way. So again, that whole phrase looks like this. Then when we complete the second measure, it's basically the same thing, but we just play those last two notes in reverse order. So we'll go, and now we go 10, 9, and back to here. All right, so that's what guitar 1 is doing in the intro. Guitar 2 is going to be up over here, playing a little bit of a harmony. Now we're going on, again, the first string, 14th fret, second string, 15th fret, second string, 14th fret, and then your third string, we are going the 16th fret here. Now that's going to follow the same exact pattern. The only difference at the end of the measure, rather than doing 2 notes, we're actually just going to play that same root note again, and then we're going to go 1 up to the 15th. So it's going to sound like this. Then we go 14, 15, and then back to it. And that's it for the intro. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So now getting on to the main riff, or what we'll say is the hook of this song, the main riff for Disassembly Required. I'm going to show you actually 2 different ways to play it. The way I play it in the video looks like this. We're going to go on your 4th string, 9th fret, 3rd string, 7th fret, and then 3rd string again, 6th fret. Then we're going to go back to that root note, 4th string, 9th fret. This time when we go down here to your 7th fret, we're then going to slide up to the 9th before going back down to the 6th. So that's going to look like this. We just repeat the previous phrase. Then coming back up to your 4th string, we're going to go the 8th fret here, then back to the 9th. So that whole thing sounds like this. Now, I don't do it for every ending of that riff, but occasionally we'll do sort of a similar pattern to what we did earlier in the intro, of going back here as we kind of complete that measure. So that would sound like this. And that's more or less the entire thing there. Now, that's the way that I play it in the video, because I like getting the root note, or sorry, the blue note from the slide here. I just think that sounds kind of cool doing it that way. There's a little bit more impact if you're picking the entire thing though. So if you would prefer that kind of sound, we would actually do it this way here, still starting with the same note, but then coming up to, on the 4th string, the 12th fret going into the 11th. So, then again, back to the root note, then we go on your 4th string, 12 here, on the 3rd string, then we go to your 9th, and then back to the 11th on your 4th string again. So that's here. Then just repeat here. Back to the 8th. There. So that's 8th, 9th, and then 12, 11, back to 9. So it all comes back down to this one. Again, you get a little bit more of an impact sound with this one because you can pick it a little bit more heavily. I prefer to do it with the slide because I think it just sounds a little bit more mysterious, I guess. But both of them work equally well. Now, we get to the fun part. So the 16th note part of this riff, I'm just going to play it once for you, and then we're going to go through the actual fret pattern. It's going to go like this. Now, it's not that technically difficult. It's a little bit tricky in terms of rhythm. I actually messed it up in the video that I posted, which if I knew ahead of time was going to be my most popular video, I would have fixed it. Oh well. Again, we're going to be basing your root note off of your 4th string, 9th fret right here. Now for this one, it's more or less all sort of tremolo picking with those 16th notes. There's going to be a little bit of tricky, funky stuff in terms of the slides and the finger position. So I'm going to try to make sure that I go over that. I'm going to try not to forget. Now again, we're starting on this note here, and we are going to be palm muting most of those actual strokes. Really the only time we're playing the note openly and cleanly is when we're actually playing a different one. So it's going to go like this. So 9th fret on that 4th string, then we're coming down to the 7th and 6th on your 3rd string. After that, it's going to be just a very quick little run on the 3rd string, going from 6th to 7th to 9th. Then we're coming back down here, back down to the 7th, back down to the 6th, so then we're going to bounce back and forth between 6 and 7 for a second. Then we come back up to your 4th string, right on the 7th, and we're going to slide into the 9th. So that ending sounds like that. So that first part of that measure. And that slide starts the next part of that section. From here, we're then going to go to something that looks like this. To play it in context one more time, just real fast. It's a little tricky to do it just sort of like piecemeal style. It's actually easier to play it in context because it flows a little bit more nicely. But I'm going to try to go nice and slow as I go into that. Again, going from that first measure here. Seven, 9, 11, 12, 11, 9, go back to the 11th, 9, 12 on the 4th string, 11 on the 4th string, and then back down to the 7th on the 4th string. Now here's where that fingering part gets a little bit tricky. I'm going to again start this phrase again. Now you'll notice that when I start, usually I'm actually starting with my pinky on the 4th string here on the 7th fret. That makes all of this stuff just a little bit easier to do. That way it's not quite as much of a stretch. So as I'm going down through here, it's going to look like this. I'm going to try to go nice and slow. Then we slide your middle finger up to the 7th ear, and then this is sort of where we're building that next phrase. So gonna slide my pinky up here, and then I'm gonna play this one with the ring finger again. So that slide there puts me then into this position here. As I come back down, I'm then going to bring this finger, slide it down this way, and then that starts the beginning of the next phrase. Now, as I start bouncing back and forth, then when I do it in context, you'll notice that when I start bouncing back here, I then switch from my ring finger back to my pinky here to make this stuff just a little bit more accessible. Makes it a little bit easier. Now that riff is probably the hardest part of this song aside from the solo section, which we'll be getting to very soon. Again, it's a little tricky, a little bit of a stretch. So you got to be very cautious with your fingering and very clean with your picking. But if you practice it a little bit, going nice and slow, then it starts to kind of make sense in context. Now, coming up to the solo section, I'm going to show you the rhythm guitar part first, because it is just sort of like a fun little, almost like early heavy metal, kind of late-end punk rock-ish sort of riff. So when we go into that drop, when the beat actually changes from going from a slower tempo to a faster tempo, it's going to sound like this. Now that part here, I'm playing it as, and again, remember, I am tuned down half a step, but I'm playing it as like a traditional B power chord. I'm sort of bouncing back and forth on that B, going down here, just chromatically. So I'm just going essentially one half note at a time down on this phrase. So I'm here on the 2nd fret of my 5th string, 4th fret of my 4th string for the B. As I bounce back and forth, the note that I'm palm muting is the B up here, the 2nd fret of my 5th string. When I come down, I'm going to come down to the 5th fret of my 4th string first. I'm working basically down from 5, 4, 3, 2. So it's, when I come down here, that's when I'm also coming back up with that little phrase there. Again, in context, it's going to look like this. So I'm going from my 4th fret, sorry, my 4th string, 2nd fret, to my 5th string, 5th fret, 5th string, 3rd fret, and then back to the 5th. So that part all looks like this. In context, I'll go nice and slow. That's basically that part. Now, the only thing that I change when I get to the ending is a pinch harmonic on the 3rd fret of your 4th string here. In context, going from that first measure, it kind of sounds like this. If you don't know how to do a pinch harmonic, it means I'm hitting essentially this this string with the very edge of the pick. At the same time, I'm hitting it with my thumb. So it kind of sounds like that. You don't have to go super hard and super heavy at that. You want it to be a little bit more smooth if at all possible. It also does sound a bit better if you're adding just a little bit of vibrato on there as you hit. But that's just the way to sort of end that measure of 4 on the 4th time you go through it. For the chords themselves during the solo section, again, it's a very sort of like early heavy metal, kind of punk rockish sort of feel, in which we're bouncing back, going from an open A into that B chord, like that, then coming up, going from a G to an F sharp, which again, it's not actually that because I'm tuned down half a step, but that's the easiest way to sort of think about it, at least for me it is. So this chord again is 2nd fret, 5th string, 4th fret, 3rd string. Up here, it is your 3rd fret, 6th string, and on the 5th string, 5th fret, then we just slide down 1. So then it's 2 and 4. That's basically all it is. It's just a little bit of a nice light, relatively light strumming. The way to end the second phrase, it starts the same, going, we go up to the G here, but then we're going to end it by going with these two chords here, going essentially from like a D to an E. So down here, it is the 5th fret, 5th string, 4th string, 7th fret here, then we slide up 2. So we go from 5 to 7, and we go from 7 to 9, that way. Now what I do on these ones is I add this extra note up here, so I'm actually barring these 3 strings, the 4th, 5th, and 6th with my pointer finger, so I get just a little bit more bottom as I'm hitting that one. Makes it sound just a little bit chunkier, which is really nice for that kind of that metal setting. So that part of the phrase is going to sound like this. Like that. Now there is one variation of this. It more or less bounces back and forth between that and the thing that we did earlier. The only thing that changes on the last two runs at the very end of the song, rather than ending with the, it instead ends like this. It's still gonna start, but then I slide down to a B flat here. So 1st fret on the 5th string, 3rd fret on the 4th string. I'll come back to the B briefly, and then I'm going to go up here, up to that D again. The 5th fret on the 5th string, 7th fret on the 4th string, and then I'm going to slide down 1. And then back to the B. So that sounds like this. Like that right there. Again, that only happens on the last 2. I'm pretty sure I didn't do it in any other section of the solo. Now there is a little bit of variance in terms of how many times I'm striking those. Really, that's not planned out. That's just, it's honestly improv, whatever you're kind of feeling in the moment. You just want to make it make sense rhythmically, but that's how that goes. Now, in terms of the solo section, to be completely honest with you, most of it was improvised. I do not remember how to play most of it, and it would take more free time than I currently have available to relearn the entire thing. So instead, because I saw some comments mentioning it specifically, instead I'm going to show you that little like a classical metal solo bridge, which is the pull-off section, which is the one that sounds like this. Again, everything else in that solo is about, I would say, 80% improvised. I only planned out a couple of things. This is one of the very few things that I had actually had planned going into that solo section, because again, it's kind of like a bridge. So that's the one that we'll go over. Now, be forewarned, it is a little bit of a stretch, and if you are not comfortable doing a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs, this one is going to be a little bit challenging. But essentially, we're going to be entirely on your third string, entirely on the G, and we're going to be going back and forth using actually the first note as kind of the root note for each one of these triplets. Now, it's going to follow this pattern here of going as it descends, and then as it ascends. So this first note, again, I'm going on the third string for all of this. First note, I'm starting off on the 11th fret. I'm pulling off then to the 7th fret here, and then the third fret of these is, the third note of these is always going to be that open G. And this is why I play this detuned, because I feel it sounds much better like this than it would otherwise. So that phrase looks like this. Again, that's why I said it's going to be a little bit of a stretch. If you got to kind of small fingers like I do, it's a little bit tricky, but you know, a little bit of practice, it'll start feeling better. After we go from here, we're then again going to move down to the 7th fret, down to the 9th fret here as the root note, and the one we are now pulling off to is the 6th. So now it's a little bit less of a gap. This one should feel a little bit more comfortable. And that's really all that is. Then we're just going to move down 2 frets again. We're now hitting the 7th fret as the first note, pulling off to the 4th fret, and then open. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. We then just move down one more this way here, going from 6 to 3 to open. So that whole thing, I'll try to go nice and slow, sounds like this. So that's basically the descension there. That one, I find that to actually be even though it's the longer part, I think it's the easier part of this section because it's a bit more straightforward. Again, you can kind of follow that pattern of the root notes of going from 11 to 9 to 7 to 6. Now, going for the ascension, we're still going to start the same way, still with that 11 to 7 pull off here. And then we're going to move up just one, up to the 12 with your pinky, but now we're pulling off to the 9th here, so it's 12 to 9. And now here's the tricky part, because we're going from this big of a spread to a smaller spread, and then back to a much wider spread this way. So for this one, we're going then all the way up to the 15th fret, and we're pulling off to the 11th. Right there. Now, this last part of the section is the only one that's not a triplet. We just end it, we end it pretty straightforward. We're going to go up to the 16th here, down to on your second string, 15, 14, and then back to the 16th on the third string. So now that whole section sounds like this. And that's basically it. Again, it's a little bit of a stretch in some of those areas. I would recommend, if you're having a difficult time with it, again, just picture those root notes first, and then you're kind of following along that pattern. That makes it just a little bit easier to differentiate. You need, again, kind of flexible fingers for those shots in which it's a very wide spread. like here and in this area here. But again, that's why you want to really make sure that you're using your pinky. Don't leave the pinky behind. And that about does it for this how to play. I hope everything was fairly straightforward. I hope I spoke well enough. This is literally the first time I have ever done this. So I hope it all worked out well. Keep rocking. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.